Welcome! In this video, we are learning how to play Canon by Carleton Elliott. Canon is part of RCM Level 1 Repertoire, List C, Inventions. This video focuses on the acquisition phase, which is when we learn the notes and get them under our hands. Let's get started. Today we are in RCM Repertoire book for Level 1, and we are going back to the List C section and looking at this Canon by Carleton Elliott. We are going to start by focusing on the right hand, then the left hand, and then we're going to put them together. But before we do that, we do need to look at some structure information. So I see that there are two sharps here in the key signature. They are F sharp and C sharp, which means that this might be in the key of D major, or it might be in the key of B minor. So I'm going to look for clues. First of all, I'm going to look and see if there's any other accidentals here, and I don't see any. I do see that it starts on A, which is neither D nor B, but A is the dominant note for D. So that's an indicator that it might be D. What really tells me is here, the very last note of the song is D, both in the right hand and the left hand. And that's usually a pretty good giveaway that we are in D major. I also notice that this is written in common time. The C here is what tells me that. And you can remember that common time is the same as 4/4 time. That means that we're going to have 4 beats per measure, and a quarter note is going to be getting a beat. The metronome marking for this, the tempo marking, is between 112 and 120. So once we're playing this full out, that's where we should be. Now this is an invention, and inventions have two voices that play independently and in coordination. So we're going to learn the right hand voice, and then we're going to learn the left hand voice. I'm going to start by playing the first line. So my right hand thumb begins on A, just below middle C. That's middle C right there. And the first phrase is like this. And I want to round off a little bit there. Try it with me. 1, 2, here we go. The second phrase is like this. Try it with me. 1, 2, here we go. And we want to round off after that one too. Let's try the whole first line right hand on its own. 1, 2, here we go. Good. The second line starts with your second finger on A, so your hand has moved a little bit. Here's how the phrase goes. It's one long phrase this time. 1, 2, 3, 4, rest. So a few things to watch out for. First, the very first beat of the second line right hand part is a rest beat. Make sure that you observe that. Next thing to look out for is that your third finger for your right hand has to turn over right there. So it's going to be crossing like this over your thumb. The next thing to look out for is that this note right here is held for 2 plus 3 beats. So that's 5 beats total. And this one here is held for 6 beats total. So let's try this together a little bit slower and making sure that we're playing F sharps and C sharps. 1, 2, 3, 4, rest. Turn over. Ta, ah, ah, ah. And now 6 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Good. We're going to do it together a little bit faster now. Same place. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now that we've learned both lines independently, you can go and combine them and practice that right hand until you know it very well. Next, we're going to be learning the left hand part. So we're going to start by learning the first two phrases, which constitute line 1, even though the second phrase ends on line 2. And then we're going to learn the final phrase. So the first phrase, just like in the right hand, plays the same notes. So it's going to start on A, D, E. Third finger will come over. So that should sound very familiar to you because it's the same notes that you played in the right hand. But we do need to do this crossover now. So when you get here, make sure your third finger comes over. Let's try it together. 1, 2, 3, 4. Rest, rest, rest. Good. And the next phrase starts on F sharp. It is also a copy of the right hand part. Let's try it together. 1, 2, 3, 4. Good. For the next part, our fourth finger is going to come to this A here. We need to make sure that we set up with the C sharp so that we don't forget it. Here's how this part sounds. 1, 2, 3, 4, rest. If you notice that that's familiar and it sounds like the right hand also, you're right. This is another copy phrase. Let's look at the catchy things here. So first of all, the very first beat of this phrase is also a rest beat. So we don't come in on the first beat. It's rest. Next, make sure your thumb comes under right here. And I think we're probably already good at holding that long beat. The last note is not as long because the left hand is catch up to the right hand, so it just holds for 2 beats and then comes off. Let's try it together. So make sure your fourth finger is on A and ready to go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Thumb under. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Great. Practice that left hand until you have it as good as the right hand. Now we will look at combining the hands together. So this is basically a call and repeat style song. So the right hand plays a phrase and then the left hand is going to copy it. But the left hand does not wait for the right hand to finish before it comes in. So you need to pay really close attention to when the left hand is supposed to come in. Sometimes it helps to take a pencil and draw a line to connect the notes between the two staffs so that you know when they come together. That would mean in this case drawing a line between these two to tell you when they come together. And then the next line that you'd want to draw would be right here to tell you when the right hand comes in again. We're going to work on the whole first line. So we're going to start here and we're going to go all the way to this note. So lines, if you decide to draw them, would go right here, and right here. Here's how this should sound when it goes together for the first line. I am going to go slower pace than normal. 1, 2, 3, 4. am exaggerating when my hands come up so that it's a little bit easier to see, but sometimes that will help you remember when you are supposed to separate the sound. So let's begin at the very beginning. So we're going to set your right hand up, set your left hand up, and we're going to go for this first phrase. So it starts with the right hand. And here's where the left hand comes in. Right hand moves here, and then it should come up to break the phrase. Let's try just that again before we add the second phrase. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now. Up. Good. Now we're going to bring in the second phrase where it's supposed to go. So, we know this, and here's where it goes. Up, up. Go ahead and try it with me. If I'm going a little too fast, you can slow down the speed of the playback. 1, 2, 3, 4. Good. Go ahead and pause the video and practice that as much as you need to. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the last phrase. So for the last phrase, this is where we belong, and I'm going to set up my C sharp so I am ready. So the right hand comes in, left, where I recommend counting out loud, especially through the end part of it, where you have to remember when the right hand goes and when the left hand goes. So I am going to count through it this time, and let's go ahead and try it together, but a little bit slower. 1, 2, 3, 4, rest. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, up. Now, it might help you to write your counting down on your page for this line. So the way that would look is you would take a pencil and actually write the numbers where they go. So 1, 2, and 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Sometimes it's hard to see the counting if you don't do that. So if it's helpful to you, please do it. Let's do this last phrase one more time, a little bit faster, still counting out loud. Go ahead and get your hand set up. Make sure that you have your C sharps ready to go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Now you should have everything that you need to have the acquisition phase under control.
Okay, it is time for us to look at a practice plan for the acquisition phase of Canon. You should practice this at least 5 minutes a day. First, I would like you to master the right hand completely. So take time to learn it and make sure that you hit all of your mastery checkpoints before you move on to master the left hand the same way. Once you feel you have both hands independently going very well, then it is time to work on mastering them hands together. Here are your mastery checkpoints for each part of your practice plan. Remember, mastery checkpoints are the things that you should be able to perform with accuracy and consistency and a good comfort level before you move on to the next step of practice. Do you have all of the correct notes? Are your rhythms sound? Are you using the correct dynamics? Is your phrasing intact? That includes legatos and round-offs to conclude phrases. And are you playing it at the correct tempo? This is everything that you need to know to master the acquisition phase of Canon. Good luck.